Welcome to Rethinking Power, the podcast where we question all aspects of society and try to find flaws in the standard ways of thinking. Today, our special guest is Fabienne Espinoza, a researcher and organizer whose work asks a radical question. What if everything we've been taught about leadership is built on domination? Thank you for being here, and go ahead.
Yeah, glad to be here. I mean, if we're serious about making changes in leadership, we need to understand that leadership isn't this merit-based system, right? It is messy, it is political, and we really need to rethink how we understand it in order to move forward.
Yeah, so I would like to understand how gender norms affects and shapes leadership.
Yeah, I mean, leadership traits are many times gender-coded, right? We think of assertive and confident as being a male trait, and we think of something being more flexible, something being more kind, something being more empathetic. We think of that as being gender, being female, and that's where the problem lies. In many ways, we give these gender ideas to leadership, and they don't lead to anything. We need to understand that we need to break these norms. We need to understand that women can both be aggressive, they can also be confident, and that even being flexible and empathetic, those are not a barrier to leadership. They actually only can improve.
So, as an academic, can you tell me about how you personally experienced this?
Yeah, of course. I mean, as an undergraduate, I studied physics, and physics is one of those fields where you can see this all the time, right? You anytime there's a group project, anytime there's collaboration, the men will just speak up. They will take leadership. They will be like, "Oh yeah, we do this, we do that," and then the girls would be silenced. They wouldn't be silenced on purpose. No one would be aggressive about it. No one would be like, "Oh no, women, you shouldn't speak." But it is very subtle. You can
Really?
tell.
I mean, even in a setting that's supposedly like very academic and merit-based, if a women have the right ideas and she's able to articulate them, would she still be silenced?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the STEM fields they try to claim to be completely neutral, to be merit-based, but that's not reality. It's very gender. I mean, it is assumed that men will be the authoritative and women have to fight to have their voices heard. In many ways, right, you have women, they try to articulate the ideas, they say, "Hey, this is what's going on," and they can say it very well, but men will not listen to it. One of the guys would just repeat it. They would every time. There's a very, very common thing that you see is women say something, it's very articulate, it's very good, and then a man just repeats it, and that is the only way for it to be given a space in the group.
I see. Let's turn now to the core framework we're working with, the distinction between transactional and transformational leadership. Can you walk us through what each of these concepts mean?
Yes, I think that first, before getting there, we have to talk about James McGregor Burns, because what he did in his book, just titled Leadership, is that he brings forth first this new idea at the time that of these new definitions of power in leadership. He understands power as being this ability to influence people, even sometimes through coercion, using different methods to get what you want. But leadership, it's slightly different than that, right? Leadership is being able to come together, to bring flexibility, to get to a neutral goal. And you can see this different in the definitions of transactional and transformational leadership, right? Transactional is this idea that I give you orders and you get something, I get something. Usually the followers only get the completion of the project or a salary, and is this notion that it is very much reinforced by corporations and like the corporate ladder. Whereas transformational leadership is we grow together, I care about you, I take your ideas, I listen to what you're trying to do, and we both together work towards the same goal.
I mean, from how I see it then, transactional leadership would be something like a dictator, right? Someone who has all the power and control and, enforces their will on others. But transformational leadership is a little bit harder for me to visualize. Can you just explain maybe some key concepts or ideas that defines it?
Yeah, so this all comes from an article like C.K. Jude Dossier. It expresses that we need like empathy, integrity, that there is a certain moral standard set up by the leaders. They not only lead by example, but they also motivate their followers to want to be led by them. They tell you this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it, and then they try to follow that. At the same time, it gives a venue for creativity. It tells you, hey, you are free to critically think about this. You're free to make your changes, to have your vision, and I will, as a leader, I will listen to it, and we will adapt together. We will move towards the same goals.
So then from how I see it is, one is all about maintaining the structure, maintaining the current hierarchy, and the other is about reimagining it?
Yeah, so in general, transactional leadership just looks efficiency. It attempts to just set up a goal and get there, whereas transformational is not satisfied with that. It looks for something more. It looks for growth, it looks for development, it looks for individualized patterns for your followers. You want them to grow, you want them to reach their potential, you want them to be able to think about the project yourself, and then just through a lens of we are all moving together, you attempt to achieve the goal and go even well beyond just these simple expectations.
So this is all very, like big concept, big ideas. Can you tell us a little bit about how this distinction play out from your experience?
Yeah, of course. I mean, not only would I just argue that the transformational leadership it's a better way, but unfortunately, transactional leadership seems to be the norm. In many ways, especially, I mean, my background in physics, every time I try to be flexible when I'm like, grades are not that important, I care much more about my students' learning. I don't care that much about the assignment as the assignment. I care about the assignment as a tool for my students to learn. I'm like, tell me what you need, let's help you grow, let's make much more individualized. And I'm called idealistic, I'm called soft.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see how in that kind of setting, you would get pushback for, behaving that way.
Yeah,
how do you feel about that?
Well, the standard seems to be just, hey, leadership means intimidating your student. Leadership means you tell your students this is what the homework is, this is what the assignment is, this is what the exam is, and then just go and do it. And I don't think I agree with that.
You previously mentioned Sheryl Sandberg's work and her TED Talk on women in leadership. She's been a huge influence in corporate feminism. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's very complicated. On the first hand, it is clear that she understands very well the struggles of women. She understands that women struggle both internally and externally in the workforce. And then she gives good advice about this, right? She says you have to find ways to speak up at the table, right? You have to sit there, you have to raise your hand, you have to lean in, you have to do all of those things that would allow you to have a voice. And that is in general good advice, but unfortunately it falls under a very narrow group of people, right? If you're a white women, a cis women or able women, then you're able to do this in a corporate ladder, but it leaves out other groups.
So you mentioned that she's, kind of falling short a little bit, right? Could you expand on that?
Yeah, so I think that the part where she falls short the most is that she asks too much of the individual and too little from the world. At the end of the day, she doesn't say this explicitly, but her comments imply that the problem falls on women. That if the women change, then they're able to have a big impact, and that is somewhat true. But there are a lot of women that are left out, especially women of color, single mothers, like women from a lower socioeconomic background. They don't have the luxury. Her work doesn't question this, and I think that's a problem.
So from everything you've spoken about, then you've given us a very different and very radical, I would say, vision of leadership, right? And you especially touched upon how the current way, the transactional leadership, leaves out a lot of marginalized groups. Well, from a different direction, what's the cost of leading while marginalized?
Well, I mean, we have this report by McKinsey called Women in the Workplace, and it reports that for every 100 men that get promoted, only 87 women are, and even worse, only 73 of them would be women of color. Throughout, it showcases that women that get to these positions are usually receive also microaggressions. They also are overlooked. They get burnout, and this also goes back to the other article, Leaving Leadership, where you can see that a lot of people, they opt out of leadership not because they don't want to lead, but because it always comes with a cost. And for people like this, for women like this, the cost can be way too great for them to even consider leading. Leadership cannot come with self-erasure.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like everything about leadership, how we understand it, how it appears in the real world is just totally broken. Like, what do we do about it? What can we even do?
Well, we have to build alternatives, right? We need to be collective, we need to be relational, we need to bring together all these things, right? We need to, if your leadership is reinforcing silence, it's not leadership, right? It's a type of compliance. We don't need more bosses, we need more facilitators, we need more collaborators, we need more people to stand next to us and not people to stand above us.
Thank you.